If you have ever wanted to watch an HR trap backfire spectacularly, resulting in a toxic boss fired on the spot, this is the ultimate story of corporate revenge. Imagine a multi-million-dollar company collapsing in exactly 42 minutes because they forgot one basic rule of business. Never dynamic dismiss the only person who holds the keys to your entire digital kingdom. For 5 long years, Julian was the invisible spine of the logistics department at Nexacorp. He was the first to arrive, the last to leave, and the only person alive who understood the company's archaic, proprietary routing software. Julian hadn't just maintained the software, he had built it from scratch in his spare time to patch over the company's crumbling legacy infrastructure. He knew every line of code, every database bottleneck, and every server quirk. Then came Marcus. Marcus was hired as the new vice president of operations, and he was a man composed entirely of expensive bespoke suits, meaningless corporate buzzwords, and completely unearned confidence. Marcus didn't understand the first thing about logistics or technology, but he understood the art of corporate optics. Within his first month, he realized that Julian's department ran with absolute clockwork efficiency. Instead of rewarding Julian, Marcus saw an opportunity. He immediately began a classic bad manager takes credit routine, signing his own name to Julian's weekly data analysis reports. During executive board presentations, Marcus took full, sweeping credit for a 22% reduction in shipping overhead that Julian had spent 6 grueling months calculating. Julian, being a quiet, dedicated professional, tolerated the credit theft with quiet dignity. He naively believed that in a corporate environment, true work would eventually speak for itself. He was wrong. The breaking point arrived during the annual review cycle. Julian was the consensus favorite across the entire floor for the vacant director of operations role. It was a position he had earned 3 times over. Instead, Marcus bypassed Julian entirely and awarded the high-paying position to his own 23-year-old nephew, a recent graduate whose only measurable qualification was an identical taste in expensive golf shirts. When Julian politely scheduled a meeting to ask for constructive feedback on his performance, Marcus didn't even look up from his tablet screen. The truth, Julian? You're just a tactical worker, not a strategic thinker. You belong down here in the trenches. Besides, you completely lack the leadership presence required for the upper echelons of Nexacorp. Be grateful you have a stable seat here. Julian felt a cold, crystal-clear snap inside his mind. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice, and he didn't make a scene. He simply nodded, went back to his desk, and typed out a formal, non-negotiable 2-week resignation notice. When Marcus received the email, he panicked, but only mildly. "Who is going to handle the Q4 transition?" he demanded, storming over to Julian's cubicle. "I've left comprehensive documentation," Julian replied evenly. And the documentation was indeed comprehensive. It was a sprawling 300-page masterpiece of standard corporate prose. However, Julian intentionally omitted the hyper-specific, situational workarounds required to keep the highly unstable proprietary routing software from completely crashing under heavy loads. He also declined to mention one critical detail. The software required a manual database cache purge every 90 days. It was a tedious back-end task that Julian had quietly performed himself on the first Sunday of every quarter. On his final day, Julian packed his single box of personal belongings. Marcus didn't even bother to say goodbye. He was already drafting a memo to the board about his streamlined, modern workforce restructuring plan. 6 weeks passed. Julian enjoyed a peaceful, well-funded hiatus. Because of his rare skill set, he had immediately secured a fully remote consulting role with a direct competitor at exactly twice his previous salary. Meanwhile, back at Nexacorp, the calendar flipped to October 1st. It was the official start of the 4th quarter, the heaviest, most frantic shipping micro-season of the entire fiscal year. At exactly 9:00 a.m. on the first Sunday of October, the crucial 90-day mark arrived. The unpurged software cache reached its absolute memory threshold. The system didn't crash with a dramatic, obvious error message. Instead, it simply began to lag heavily, quietly misrouting high-priority freight shipments to completely incorrect regional hubs across the country. By Tuesday afternoon, Nexacorp's flagship distribution center was completely gridlocked. Semi-trucks lined the interstate highway for 3 miles, completely unable to unload because the digital manifests were corrupted. Marcus's brilliant nephew, completely out of his depth and panicking, tried to resolve the issue by aggressively forcing a hard restart on the main servers. This single, uneducated action permanently deleted the entire active tracking queue. By Thursday, the situation escalated into an absolute corporate emergency. Nexacorp's largest client, a global retail giant representing 40% of their entire annual revenue, issued a terrifying formal warning. Resolve the delivery delays within 24 hours or face a massive breach of contract lawsuit. Marcus sat in his glass office, sweating profusely through his tailoring. He summoned his IT team, who gave him the grim reality. "The code is a labyrinth, Marcus. Julian built it. It's entirely customized to our legacy hardware. We can fix it, but it will take us at least 3 weeks to reverse engineer his logic." "We don't have 3 weeks," Marcus screamed. "Call Julian. Offer him whatever he wants to consult for a weekend." Julian was sitting on his back deck, enjoying the morning sun, when his phone rang. He let it go straight to voicemail. Marcus called 4 more times before desperate text messages started pouring in. "Julian, please call me. Urgent. System is completely down. Willing to pay standard consulting rates." Julian waited until 4 o'clock in the afternoon to respond. His reply was a masterclass in leverage. "I am available. My emergency corporate consulting rate is $25,000 per day, with a minimum 4-day retainer required up front. I also require full administrative autonomy during the intervention." Marcus balked, sending an angry reply about professional ethics. Julian simply didn't answer. By Friday morning, with Nexacorp's stock price dipping 4% in pre-market trading, the CEO himself intervened. He ordered Marcus to accept any terms necessary to fix the disaster. At 1 p.m. on Friday, Julian walked back onto the 14th floor. He wore casual jeans and a soft sweater, looking rested and radiating absolute calm. The department looked like a war zone. Employees were weeping at their desks. "Julian, thank God," Marcus said, rushing forward. "Let's get into the conference room and map out the strategy." Julian bypassed the outstretched hand entirely and looked directly at the CEO, who had come down to the floor personally. "I don't need a strategy meeting," Julian said clearly. "I need the Director of Operations and the VP of Operations to immediately vacate the floor. Their tactical interference is what caused the data corruption. I cannot work with distractions." The CEO looked at Marcus, then at his trembling nephew. The choice was instantaneous. "Marcus, take your nephew and leave the building for the weekend. Julian has the floor." With the toxic management removed, Julian sat down at his old terminal. The remaining staff watched in absolute silence. Julian opened the command terminal, typed the specific, simple sequence to clear the 90-day cache, and ran his proprietary recovery script to restore the deleted tracking queues from an automated cloud backup he had secretly established years ago. The entire process took exactly 42 minutes. The monitors across the floor suddenly flashed bright green. The shipping manifests populated. The trucks began to move. Julian spent the remaining 3 days of his contract comfortably sitting in the executive lounge, reading books, drinking premium espresso, and monitoring the smooth flow of data. He collected his $100,000 fee on Monday morning. Before leaving for the final time, Julian handed a sealed folder to the CEO. Inside was a comprehensive audit detailing every single report Marcus had ever stolen, complete with original digital timestamps from Julian's personal drive, alongside a copy of the exit interview notes where Marcus had called him an incompetent trench worker. By Tuesday morning, Marcus and his nephew were publicly escorted from the building by security, their belongings packed into cardboard boxes. The corporate hierarchy had rebalanced itself, proving once and for all that while buzzwords might win a meeting, actual competence always rules the crisis.